Hey everyone, welcome back. Brand new Take Aim podcast. Excited to get back with a new show. Excited to bring you public land deer show. And what we do every week is big deer, big stories, and this is no exception. Awesome buck for public land down in Ohio. J.Franklin, his family get together every year. They gun hunt, bow hunt together, just tradition, which is awesome part of this story. But as much is just what Jeremy used to scout this land, figure out public ground, boots on the ground, mobile apps, using the Huntstand app, actually. And just great story, and it's great to listen to what Jeremy had to say, how he figured this out, what signs he read, access, acorns, food, bedding, all of that is in this podcast. So thanks, Jeremy, for being on. Awesome buck, 7x3, 11-pointer in the 150s. Can't even imagine. So great job, Jeremy. And as always, we'll see you guys next week. Guys, and as always, if you've not had the chance to check out the Huntstand app, I highly recommend you do. But this month they are doing a huge giveaway with all sorts of prizes, from bows to side-by-sides, you name it, all kinds of great stuff. But if you've not upgraded to the Pro version, make sure to use the code TAKEAIM10 and upgrade to the Pro version today. All right, guys, we are live, brand new Take Aim podcast, and excited to be back, excited to talk some deer and another new show, and excited to have this guy on, J.Franklin from Ohio. And Jeremy, man, you shot a stud buck on public land, and excited to have you here and excited to talk about that today.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. It was a good season for sure, so I do appreciate you reaching out to me and giving me a chance to talk about deer hunting.
Yeah, for sure. It's always fun to talk deer hunting. So, you know, it's really cool that obviously it's really cool anytime anybody shoots something nice on public land, but your deer is super unique, you know. So tell me a little bit about that deer, just so everybody kind of paint the picture for everybody. But, you know, kind of crazy rack, even though it's, you know, it's like symmetrical, but it's crazy. You got like a 7x3 11-pointer, but tell us a little bit about that deer.
He definitely is unique. Yeah, the one side is just a big 3-point side. On the right side is 7 points with 2 brow tines. I think it was like 19 inches wide. We scored him right at 150. It's gross, obviously, but I was pretty happy with him, especially public land. But yeah, he's definitely different than all the other deer I've shot. So.
Yeah, for sure, he's super nice deer, and I definitely know you've shot some nice deer. But I want to talk about kind of just this hunt in particular and what you knew about where you hunted in Ohio and it being public land. So can we run through some of that?
Sure.
So. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I hunt with a small group in gun season, shotgun season. Same cousins and friends I've hunted with forever. We hunt in a small area here. I'm actually from Noble County. Last couple of years we started hunting more public ground just because a lot of our private, we actually had a large lease previously through some coal company land that was eventually sold, so we lost all that, so kind of did some research on some public land around here. There's a couple of different places. And I had actually went out and bow hunted a different section of public land this year. And we did go out there during gun season also. Like I said, we had like 9 guys hunting. We try to avoid any other hunters and just try to find little pockets of public land that other people don't go into. That's the main thing we're trying to look for. It's kind of new to us because we've always hunted private, so it's interesting, but I kind of have to find new land when all your other's gone. So.
Yeah, exactly. So was this your first year, Jeremy, or second year, you know, you guys taking this public land challenge up?
We did a couple. We hunted a little bit on a different part of public last year in the same area. It's not the exact same public ground, but it's in the same area. I'm from Noble County. So
where's that, Jeremy? Like what part of the state? I'm sorry.
Southeastern Ohio.
The southeast, okay.
Yeah, we're about 30 miles northwest of the Ohio River. Not too far south, but in the southeastern part. So
sure,
there is some public ground here, different parcels, and it was something new to us. It was interesting and fun. You kind of never know what you're going to get into in public hunting, but it is different, and a chance to shoot something you're not sure is there. I didn't know that deer was there. We went in there that day, actually, so it was kind of fun and interesting hunt when he showed up. So.
Yeah, for sure. So I do want to get into that a little bit, but I want to keep pace with the public land. And what was your thoughts, Jeremy, going in to, scouting and like trying to pick out a piece that you guys thought you all could hunt? Did you use, app services, like a Huntstand or one of those, or did you, just have regular printed maps? How did you go about that part of it? And then when did you go in to kind of put feet on the ground?
Okay. I do use Huntstand as the app I use. I know some of the other guys use, I think Onyx or something like that, but I use Huntstand primarily. I had scouted out, when I said we went over there last year, we really went in blind last year and just tried to get in a couple places that we try to stay close to the public-private line, kind of just try to avoid as many hunters as possible just so we're not running into a lot of guys. And then this summer, I had actually scouted out the same place we had hunted last year. Just actually went out and walked around, looked at the map, and figured out there's a big CRP area in there, and two ridges that ran together. And I just went in there on foot and scouted out, looking for bedding, looking for food sources, and found the big CRP field. And actually, me and my family just went for a walk out there one day, and on the way back to the vehicle, I had taken a trail camera with me, and just put it out. I found that there was a couple big beds in one area, secluded area on the backside of the CRP. Put a trail camera out there just on that bedding area, and the first couple of deer I got was a pretty nice buck and some does, so I knew there were deer in there. So that kind of led me into hunting in that public area. That's not exactly where I killed this deer, but I did have another deer I'd been hunting on public all year. So that's kind of how it got into public. It's a little bit obviously different than private land hunting in Ohio, just because in Ohio there's no baiting on public ground, nothing like that. So, you're not going to see as many deer normally as you do on private, but it was a challenge for me, and it's just going to kind of get back to basic of hunting is looking for sign, looking for bedding areas, things like that. It was fun. I'm glad I did that and continue to do that. So.
Nice. So when you went in there and you walked this, what time of year was that, Jeremy?
It was around August.
Around August.
Late
so
summer.
what?
Yeah, late summer.
Did you do multiple trips, or was it just a one and done? Like you had previously kind of already picked out those ridges or saddles based off maybe the Huntstand app?
Yep, I did. I used the Huntstand app I kind of knew the area just somewhat familiar because we were there last year, just a general area. But I did get on the Huntstand to find out where those ridges were, the high points, and it kind of coordinated with the back of that CRP field. Kind of ran into the woods, and the highest knob there where the two ridges met was actually where I found those beds. And that was the first time I'd went in there. I did go back in there later and did more. I went in deeper into that, and there was actually a nice oak ridge on there where I assumed the deer were feeding. There's not a lot of feed around there. So I actually did move cameras on deeper into there and started getting more bucks, and that's exactly the place I hunted, was where those two ridges met on the back of that CRP. I was sure that's where the deer were bedding, on the back of that. And there was a different entrance point from the other way I could get into, and it worked out pretty good. I saw some deer. I actually saw the one deer I was hunting in bow season. Like I said, it's a different deer than I ended up killing, but it's a really nice deer. We actually saw it the next day after I killed we went back out to that area. the next day to a different piece of public, and we actually saw the deer that I had been hunting all year, and actually one of the guys in our group missed it. So
oh, no way.
It was kind of nice to know it all worked out, and we had a legitimate shot to kill the deer. So he's really nice. He's probably a 160-inch 10-pointer.
Wow, that's a good buck.
Yeah. Real nice. So I was really hoping he got it, but unfortunately he missed, and he's still out there hopefully. So.
Now, was that archery season he missed that deer?
That was in gun season also. Actually, the next day after I shot mine, we went back to the other piece of public, and he missed it that next day. So.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy. Now, going back to August, Jeremy, at any point did you set up cameras, or did you go back into rescout? And I know that it sounds like you were in there during gun season, but did you bow hunt at all, and did you do any preset stands?
I actually hunted from the ground. I did have not a cell camera, but a trail camera I put in there, actually in that oak thicket. I just left it in that area, and I did get one bigger buck. Then I also got some other deer feeding through there, so I knew that's where they were coming through. And I did hunt there. I hunted there multiple times during bow season. The big deer that I said the guy missed, I did see him once in bow season. I really thought I was going to get a shot at him. He came into about 70 yards, and he just kind of got a drink down there's a little valley below me, kind of got a drink, and turned and went right back up into his bedding area. So I was kind of disappointed that night because I thought I would had a pretty good chance at him, but didn't work out that night. So.
Now, getting back to that area, Jeremy, give me your thoughts on, I know you keep mentioning the CRP, but give me a little bit in-depth layout of how big is the CRP, and why did you say you think the deer were bedding on the backside of it?
The CRP field itself, it's kind of a different layout. It's an old coal company grounds, what it is. It was stripped at one time, so the CRP field itself, where I thought he was bedding, was probably in the vicinity of 50 to 60 acres. And then there's, on the back side, there's another hillside back behind that. It's a lot of grown-up brush, a lot of small trees that are grown up. But back in the back side of that CRP, there's also some underbrush. There's some younger pine thickets in there. Just kind of a little rough area back in there that the deer, where he was bedding on the back side of that, which coincided with the top side of the ridge on the bottom, was, I think, the perfect place for him to bed. You could see anyone coming in from either side of him, anything coming up over the hill from the backside, he could see anything in there. So I just thought that was a really good bedding area, a spot for a buck to lay to try to avoid any danger. He could get out of there in multiple ways. So that was my thinking at the time. And there were multiple beds in there when I went in there both times for scouting. So I had a pretty good idea that there were deer bedding in there. I was just hoping it was him, and it did turn out that's where he was coming from. So.
Gotcha. That's super interesting. So I know that from my experience this year, Jeremy, I actually got to hunt southern Ohio, south central, I'll call it, almost exactly south central, but it's really big and kind of rugged. Is it kind of the same type of atmosphere in the southeast over there?
Yeah, we're pretty rugged. There's a lot of old strip mine ground, a lot of cutout timber, with some pretty big hills in this area. Just rough terrain. Deer like to stay in. Kind of hard to get in and out of at times, but you just kind of have to find a good entry point. To me, that's one of the main things, is finding an entry point in and out of your spot that deer don't see you coming into, and you can sneak in and out of without disturbing any deer at all. So that's the main thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
So give me a little rundown on the access that you had. Did you have a area you needed to park at, or how did all that work, and how did you determine where you wanted to access?
Okay. There's actually two roads. There's a road on both sides of this piece of property. Where I decided, once I figured out where I thought he was bedding, was up in that CRP. the bottom road, which actually sits below this piece of property, was a great entry point for me. There was a place to pull off there, parking spot along this road. It's an old gravel road. And it also just ran up the back side of that ridge. And there was a nice little valley in between there. I could stay in a low spot the whole time going in. And I just actually slipped up right on the top of that ridge on the back side of it. And nothing that was laying out in that CRP could see me coming in from that way. It was kind of tucked down over the backside of that hill. So that was my thinking. And I did see deer each time I was in there, so I don't think I was disturbing anything when I was walking up in there. So.
Oh, that's really good. On a typical set, Jeremy, how many deer would you say you would see a day, and was it kind of based on, were they already bedded and kind of just standing up out of the CRP and milling around, or did you see actual traveling to and from an area into the bedding?
Typical hunt, there's not a high deer density in that area. I mean, I could tell just from the trail cameras. Couple deer each time, one or two each time I went hunting. Actually, where I had set up on the ground, that I could not see the actual CRP. It was actually on up over the hill from me. I had set up in the where those oaks were, the big oaks. There were two really big oak trees in there. There were all kinds of acorns around there. And it actually was where the two ridges met. I tried to stay back on the back side of that because I figured those deer were coming from the CRP down over that, on the edge of that ridge into those oaks to feed, and that's actually where they came from each time. The first time I was in there was a smaller buck. He kind of fed out the back side of the one ridge and fed around to me. There were some does that fed in that same direction. The time I did see the bigger buck, he actually fed from the other ridge. There's kind of a briar thicket back through there. That's where he came from that night. So I think that's exactly where he was. There's kind of where the CRP met these thick area of briars and stuff, and I think that's where he was bedding, because that's where he came from the night I saw him. So.
Gotcha. So in that area, and I assume it's kind of the same as South Central, Jeremy, it's tons of timber. How did you kind of identify food? I know that when I was down there, it just seemed like, there's a lot of acorns, so it kind of makes it seem like, in a way, overwhelming. It's really kind of hard to target food. So did you just kind of focus on that area that you said, I found enough bedding to make me believe, they have what they need here. This is the spot?
Yeah, that was my exact thought. Right on that specific parcel of property, there's not an overabundance of any other feed or food for the deer other than these acorns. It's kind of maybe just some of the grasses and the CRP and stuff, but as far as anything else, there's no crops around there, crop fields anywhere close. And where I actually picked there, down below me on the one side, was a water source, and then I was hunting right in the oak, so I thought the bedding was above me, the oak trees were right there where I was hunting, and then the water was down over to the east of me, down on the other side. So I thought either way, food or water, they're going to have to travel through there, and that's what seemed to happen each time.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to get into kind of the good part where you end up killing this awesome buck, but real quick, Jeremy, I'm just offhand kind of wondering, I got a question for you. What is your favorite season, whether it be a season of a weapon, choice of weapon, or a season being like, September, October, November, December? What part of the, overall hunting season do you prefer the most?
Yeah. It's kind of a tough question, but I would.
It's all fun, right?
It was November. It's just more deer activity at that time, different deer coming through. I've always enjoyed gun hunting just because our group, just kind of a tradition we've always had in our family since I've been 10 years old. And I'm 40 years old now, so for the last 30 years.
That's very cool.
I've grew up with the same guys my whole life, and we've hunted together forever. And we just kind of gather together. It's just a camaraderie thing. As far as just me personally hunting, probably that last week in October, first week in November. And even in the second week in November, seems like in my area, some of those does seem to come in middle of November. I know people talk about the rut that first week, but especially this year, we had bucks on does clear in the gun season. So that second, third week, you just never know what's going to happen. There's bucks.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's a great answer. Yeah, for sure. So this deer, you guys are at gun season or whatever. Was this the opening day of Ohio, or was this the second day? And did you go in kind of with an all-day sit in mind, or how did all that go down?
It was actually the third day. We had actually been in that area, and we actually were doing a deer drive. We do some small drives. We kind of like still hunt to each other to just kind of keep deer moving. But we'd actually been in that area the first day, and if you hunted in Ohio on Monday of deer season, it just poured the rain down. And we actually were out in that exact same area the day that on Monday, and we were just completely drenched. We did see a couple small bucks in that area. A couple of the guys that walked through there on Monday, they just said, "Hey, we need to get back in this little area." It was, like I said, it was a different area. It was along a lake, along the lake where I shot this one. Like I said, it was a different parcel than where I'd hunted this other deer in bow season. But we had hunted. It was right along the lake between a little gravel road and the lake. And the guys that came through the other day, like, "Hey, there is so much buck sign in here. He said, it's really thick down in there." But he said there are rubs, and there has to be other bucks in there other than the two that we saw. So we actually just kind of planned it out, used the topographical maps to figure out what the area was and where we needed to get into to kind of sit. And then, like I said, we do small drives on those areas. I guess some people call it drives. Like I said, a couple guys will get in there, kind of still hunt through, and we try to find little spots where the deer are going to cross at and stuff. So that's what happened the day I killed it. And he was the only deer we saw that day. The two smaller bucks we saw the other day were not in there that day. I don't know if other hunters had pushed him over into that little area that day, but he was the only deer we saw, and he came right out on that day. Actually, one of the other guys in our group, I won't mention his name, but he actually had missed the deer right before I shot it. And,
oh, no way.
Yeah, it ran up by me and stopped about 30 yards and actually hit it first time, the second, and it turned and ran, and I shot the second time and dropped it right there. But, yeah, he had actually missed it. It got up on him too close.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. Man, that's super unique. So was this, did you guys start deer driving in the morning? Did you guys sit in the morning, or was this midday, or how did you guys kind of work all those plans out, and how do you guys communicate all that?
Gotcha. Most of the drives we do were in the morning, a little bit early afternoon, and then we usually stop in the middle of the afternoon, and some of the guys go out and sit in the evenings before dark. That's kind of how it played out all week this year. Just guys had different trail cameras out, new deer that were coming in, and it just kind of gave us some time in the morning to kind of get out and hang out with one another, get some deer up and moving. It did snow, so we had some pretty good snow on, so there was good visibility for deer hunting. But usually by 1:30, 2 o'clock each day, we stopped driving. Guys went into their spots they'd been hunting and sit, and to give us a chance to kill some other deer. So.
Oh, that's awesome. So out of the group, Jeremy, I don't know if you mentioned how many guys were actually there, but overall for that, you guys were there a week, I take it?
Yeah, we hunted all week.
All week. So overall, how did the group do overall you guys are still new to this, per se on public land, but how was everybody's attitudes, and overall, how did the whole hunt turn out?
Good. Our group varied from like 5 guys to 9 guys. That was kind of the whole week, just kind of back and forth depending on work schedules and stuff like that. But, we had talked over last year a little bit about going to public, and kind of everyone's consensus was, well, there's no big deer on public hunting. Everyone hunts there. Everyone shoots everything. I mean, we kind of talked about it this year, and I'm like, we just got to try it. I mean, until we get out there and try it, we're never going to know. So I think me killing that deer, kind of everyone was like, maybe we should be out here hunting, because you never know what's out here. Obviously, all the deer don't get shot on public hunting. Actually, I believe we saw deer each place we were at in public hunting. At least
Wow.
on one of the groups saw deer, so it wasn't a thing where we went in the area and there was just nothing there. We saw deer in every little area that we went into, but everyone was pretty excited. That was the first big deer we've killed on public. We did kill 2 other really nice bucks. Those were on private. So like I said, we do hunt some private. We did kill 2 other deer. I think one scored like 148, one scored 147. So we had a really good
You guys
week.
had a good season.
Really good. Really good season for the small of the groups we had. So it went really well this year. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, super happy for you guys. That sounds cool. And it sounds great that you guys have that tradition. I love that part of the story. And, before we wrap it up, Jeremy, did you feel like you did enough to kind of evade other public land hunters? And did you run into any issues throughout the year with anybody?
no, we anytime we went into an area, we always looked to see if there was any other entry points there. We actually targeted small blocks of places. The place around the lake, there's just a bunch of little strips of cut out trees and stuff like that. We try, if there was anyone in those areas, we stayed out. We went to a new place. There was one day we actually ran into some other hunters and actually just stopped and talked to them. They were good to go. Actually, we ran them some deer, so they were pretty happy about that. But no, we try to avoid any other hunters if all possible, just because courtesy for other hunters and safety, things like that. But we try to get into little pockets, like I said, along private, where the public meets private, just kind of stay out of the big areas where most of the hunters are. And we do as much as possible. We did as much as possible this year to avoid any other conflict or anything like that. Not that we've ever had any, but just the potential for that to happen. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So based on that knowledge, Jeremy, what, if anything, will you do different now going into like the 2021 season? Have you guys already expanded that thought to hit some more properties just like that, or has anything changed? Or are you guys kind of happy maybe grinding it out where you guys are at until maybe it gets overpressured, so to speak?
Yeah. We talked about it that whole week of gun season, about just finding some different spots. It's all new to us, so kind of getting in there maybe this off season, late season or off season, just kind of doing some scouting, try to find some other little areas. I think we're definitely going to continue to do that. Like I said, there's a lot of different public hunting areas around here. So I think we're going to get into that, try to do some scouting on those places, just to try to find some other spots that we did not go to this year. I think we probably went to like 5 or 6 different little spots this year, so hopefully we're going to expand that a little bit, just to try to give it something different. We didn't run into a ton of hunters, other than opening day, and it was pretty bad weather, but on Monday there were some hunters in different areas. We went back into those same areas like Thursday and Friday, and there were hardly any hunters in those areas, so that's kind of good. We kind of gave us an idea of when maybe to get into those places and when to avoid those places, but I think we're definitely going to try to expand that. And like I said, same thing, kind of avoid areas that other hunters are in, just to give them that right if they're already in there first. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, it sounds like a good plan, and I'm glad that kind of worked out for you guys, and especially with the situation. I know what it's like to lose some ground, and then you're kind of scrambling, and it's always uncomfortable when you have to go through that and kind of figure out. It's always fun to figure out new ground, but to do it the way you're doing it, it's a little uneasy at first, but man, it sounds like you guys kind of, worked into something really good in your favor. So, that's awesome. And I obviously hope, next year you guys do just as well. And are you planning on kind of getting in there, same situation, Jeremy, like starting early? I know you mentioned that to scout, but as far as bow hunting goes, and then just keep going right through the gun season?
Yeah, probably the same areas. I'm definitely going to head back over into the same area that I'd bow hunted this year, just because I've kind of got figured out somewhat where the deer are coming through there. But yeah, definitely bow hunting. It's different. It's nice to get a change of scenery from where you normally hunt, just different spots and different options available for different deer, and for big deer that we know are in there, and hopefully the one survives and he's there next year, and we'll definitely be after him. So.
Yeah, heck yeah, absolutely. Well, I wish you the best of luck, man, and I hope next year you shoot that deer, and I definitely want you to stay in touch with me, and hopefully you put some more good deer on the ground and we can do this again.
Well, I really appreciate you having me on, and just the time you've taken out to give me this and kind of discuss that, and always enjoy discussing and talking about deer hunting of any type. So I do greatly appreciate it, and thanks for the time, and I'll definitely keep in touch. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great story, and just great that hear you talk about family and tradition and all of that. And I wish everybody in that group good luck as well. And like I said, hopefully we get to do this again. And you guys know every week you can find us on the Outdoor Podcast channel, Unfiltered Outdoors, iTunes, Amazon Music, and Jeremy, we'll see you again real soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day and good hunting season.
You too, buddy. Stay on the line for me.